You could also.
All right. Hey everyone, thanks for watching and welcome to the New Day podcast. Pastor John and I just wanted to get together and talk about an update to the New Day family. So whether you're a part of the New Day family or whether you're just kind of interested in what's happening at New Day, we have some really exciting stuff going on in the life of our church and in our family of churches. And so, John and I just love just popping the hood, just talking about what's going on kind of behind the scenes. And so we wanted to give you guys a picture into what's going on in Pasadena and with New Day. And so thank you guys for being a part of it. Thank you for everyone who has invested in New Day, and we're seeing a lot of fruit from that. So John, I want to ask you, what is the latest news with the New Day family of churches?
Well, the latest news, as we talked about this past Sunday, and also we posted on social media, is we have a third church, a third replant joining our family of churches. Golden Acres Baptist Church has officially voted to become one of our churches. And so now we have a family of churches that is specifically comprised of 3 replants, and we are going to walk together. And the way we've kind of been phrasing it is, we are unified for greater gospel advancement in the greater Houston area. And so we just made that announcement. It's exciting. These are incredibly crazy times, but we are excited for the new addition.
Awesome. So, if you guys are watching, you kind of know the story of New Day, and that we were a replant of a church called White Oak Baptist Church that both Pastor John and I grew up in, and the people of that church got together and said, we want to replant and become New Day Church. And so we did that back in 2019. And it's just an incredible faith move that brought a lot of blessing, we think, to our community and to our church. And then another opportunity came along for someone to basically come into our family. And so we started using this terminology called a family of churches. And so Pastor John, just share a little bit, why are we becoming a family of churches, or why do we use that terminology? What does that mean? And why is that important?
That's an important thing for us to talk about, because I think that, everything that we do, we want to do it for a reason and for the right reason. And so we are not the only ones that are employing this model of a family of churches, but I would say in some ways we are kind of on the front lines of this new thing that's happening in the church. I know for sure in America, I'm sure it's happening globally as well. Where basically it's a group of churches or campuses, however you want to phrase it. Basically, a church is kind of meeting in different locations, but really shares central vision, central commitments, central doctrine, central leadership that is a blessing to the whole and makes it all stronger together. Specifically, kind of why we're a family of churches and why it's like, hey, we are, because we are all in on here at New Day Houston, the greater Oak Forest community. I mean, we are all in here. We are a local church, but we also want to be involved in God's greater work in the city. A few reasons for that is, number one, we are a family of churches in other locations because, number one, we are a church and the church advances the gospel. Like, that's a pretty clear thing in scripture. The church is always moving forward, wherever God opens up doors. If it's the right thing to do and it's wise, then we want to step into that new place. And so we're a family of churches because every church, I believe, if it's healthy, should be advancing the gospel, planting new seeds, planting the Jesus flag in new places. And so you definitely see that kind of sending culture in the scriptures. It's also a way that we can, advance the gospel. There's a couple of ways we can advance the gospel. One is just by planting autonomous other churches that we're not connected to. And we support various different church plants in various different ways as a church that, is not connected to us. We're also part of the Houston Church Planting Network, which we do a lot of stuff with them and we support them. And they're starting churches all across the greater Houston area. We're part of a denomination. We give missions offerings and things like that. And so we are definitely involved in planting out new things, but also one of the ways that churches can grow in places where it makes sense and it's a fit is starting churches that are connected together. And so that's just another option and one of the ways that we do it. Another reason why we're a family of churches is because, honestly, New Day Houston, where we're at, dude, is healthy and generous. And that's important to note. We're healthy and generous. And so, our people are awesome and our church is healthy. We were a struggling church and we were struggling financially, struggling to get new people. Our buildings were run down. Church was divided back in the day. I mean, we were a struggling, unhealthy church. And by God's grace, I think as of now, we are a very healthy church in terms of our unity, our leadership being in accordance with the scriptures, what we teach, the fact that we have new people coming in and connected, people getting baptized, people becoming leaders. I mean, it's a healthy, functioning local church. And as the church becomes healthier, it begins to mature into like adulthood, I think, to where it's not just about you, but you now have the ability to like manage yourself and also care for other people and help other people flourish. And so we are at that place now where we literally have the people and the resources to where we are healthy where we're at, but also we can bless other people. And so it's a good thing to do that. We would not do this if we weren't healthy in that sense, but God has blessed us and our people have just been faithful to let God work through them. A couple of the reasons I think, and I give you a lot. One is I think we and our story have unique insight into replanting, and that's an important need right now. And so there's a lot of talk going on right now about like replanting, because every church feels like to some degree it's fallen apart with everything that's happened in the world and COVID and giving and economy and just all the stuff happening. Our culture becoming increasingly post-Christian. And so, it was hard for churches before the pandemic, especially a lot of struggling churches. It's very hard now. And so I think the fact that we have the ability to we've kind of been down this road before, it kind of makes it a little bit easier for us to help places get up and running by inviting them into the New Day family and walking with them. And then lastly, we're a family of churches because we're just better together. I think because we do a lot of replants, the challenge, if we're just very honest and blunt about a lot of churches, is they are struggling and they're small and they don't have a lot of resources or funds to really fund the ministry. And so like a church has like rundown buildings. It needs a pastor that's all in, that has the ability to do the work. You need some staff, you need a team, you need various things, you need insurance for the building or whatever it is, but they don't have any of the funds for that. And so to just say, well, go do your own thing, it's like, unless you're going to do everything for them, they need help. And so what we have come to find in our model is that by centralizing, we can work together, we can share resources, share leadership, and you can basically get, like, what we're looking at is there are going to be 3 places in the city of Houston that we hope are going to be healthy local churches that can impact their community, that are staffed for that are resourced for that, where the buildings aren't falling apart, where there's money for ministry and there's money for generosity. That's going to be happening in 3 places, but it doesn't take 3 times the money, And so from just that perspective, it's just a really cool model, and it kind of like us working together kind of blesses everybody. So, there's more reasons, but those off the top of our head are some of the really important reasons why we have moved into this family of churches model.
Yeah, and I just want to jump on that last one, better together. It's just like every church has, I think, a hope and a vision to reach people and make a difference for Jesus. It's just, like you said, there are things that get in the way of that. And so when we come together as a family, it makes that vision like a reality. Like now it can become a reality because we're doing it together. And isn't that what the Bible talks about, Ephesians 4, like unified in the body of Christ. And so I love how it's like an image of like, no, we are coming together as one on the mission of Jesus to love people. So that's really cool. So the church that is joining our family is named Golden Acres Baptist Church in the greater Pasadena area. Share a little bit with people who are watching, kind of how did New Day get connected with us or with that church?
Yeah. And I love this kind of stuff, man, because, whenever I hear of, anyone who does anything or a church that does something, I'm always like, man, how did that happen? Like, I love, like you said, popping the hood. And so for us, I'm just like, I feel like we're kind of saying the stuff that we wish as we're watching people, like what they would say, because it's just helpful, if you're a fellow pastor or you just love the church or you're a part of New Day, you're like, man, like, how does all this, how's the sausage made, as they say, right? And so for us, like, I mean, yeah, anyway, but so
you title the podcast that how the sausage is made,
yeah, that'll be the title. It'll be a good title, but I will tell you how the sausage was made on this one. So we were a family of churches of 2 churches. We are still getting New Day Magnolia built up. We're excited about what God's doing out there with the team and Pastor Randy. And, we are faithfully building that church, as like there was like 8 or 10 people left there. So that one has taken a lot of building to get it going. But We are excited about what's happening out there. But, as that one was kind of getting kind of going, and here in Houston, we're kind of coming, Lord willing, out of the pandemic, not back to normal, but to whatever the new reality is going to be. We began sensing it was time, me and you specifically, that, hey, listen, I think that this is our vision. This is what we do. And the question is, can we continue to do this? Are we ready for something else? And we began to sense that it was time. So we talked to the elders, who, we have a team of 4 elders, of which we're a part of, and just began talking and praying together. And we felt like, yeah, I think we could start kind of putting word out. I mean, we're constantly gripped by the conviction, I know that I am, that supposedly there will be more churches that will die in the years to come in America than it's ever happened in America. Like, so many churches are going to shut down. And so if we're just sitting over here comfortable, because I mean, we have a great church, but we're very blessed, and it could just be very comfortable just to be here and preach on Sunday and do the event or whatever. And so there's a lot of need out there, and church stuff is what we do. And so we know there's a lot of needs. So we kind of began to peek out there as to what was going on, who needs some help. We met with a lot of different people, just kind of saying, hey, listen, like, we are open to whatever God wants to do. And so we're just kind of spreading the seed of like, hey, this is kind of what we do. If you know anybody, we'd love to talk to them. 2 opportunities actually presented themselves from different people that said, hey, listen, I've heard about what y'all do, or as you're kind of explaining this to me, that you should talk to this church or whatever. So 2 churches emerged that we began to kind of just get to know, build a relationship with, not knowing if anything would come from it. And of the 2, the one of them was Golden Acres Baptist Church, which the UBA, and Josh Ellis, who's the director there, and a friend of ours, got us connected with them. And Golden Acres Baptist Church was the one that he got us connected with. And that was the one of the 2 that we felt like was just like the right fit for what we were doing. And so obviously, we kind of started building that relationship more. I got a chance to meet with John, one of the staff pastors there, who was kind of serving in the transition for them and doing a really good job. And man, I really loved talking to him, hearing his heart, learning with the church. We met with the board that was kind of overseeing their transition process. And I met with them. James, you came and met with them a couple of times as well. And we just loved him. It was the reason why I think there's so much potential in replanting is because of the people that are involved in these churches still. And we've been there, man. We grew up in a church where a lot of faithful people, a lot of potential, but they're like, what's lacking is often maybe some experience or leadership and vision, and the people are faithful and they're even willing to kind of be a part and support the ministry. They just kind of need a path forward. And so as we met with them, we just felt like it was a great match, and we love the people and they were really on board. And, I think also these churches, there's often more people assume if it's a struggling church that like people are just not going to be on board with anything, but we just haven't found that to be the case. I mean, usually when you get in there to know everybody, like they want to see something happen, and they want to be a part of something. And so we just had a really good relationship with them. We were both praying. We both felt like it was the Lord's will. We shared the vision with the church as a whole. And also, I think one of the ways that we really knew that this was like, something that God wanted us to do was, we have a policy. We are very upfront. We're not like, let's just kind of get this church to be part of our family, and then we're going to really reveal what we're going to do afterwards. It's like, no, this is exactly what we think is going to happen. And we even put forward like the process and some of our plans, and like even who we thought would be the pastor. I mean, we were just like, this is what we think. And so whenever they officially voted on it, they voted knowing exactly, for the most part, what was going to happen. Of course, things change and, things maybe seem different once they become a reality. But, our thing is we're not looking to, we want someone to be a part. We assume that if it's really the Lord, he's going to prepare the path. And that became very clear. And so they voted by a 91% affirmation vote, which is a huge blessing. I mean, that's not just like the vote passed. That's like a huge vote of affirmation. We always say 85% of the Baptist church is unanimous, and so it was over unanimous vote. And so it's just another confirmation. And so once again, like that was kind of the whole process. But at the end of the day, it's like we got connected and we both wanted to walk together. And so now we are.
Yeah. And I just want to tack on and just say that the people of this church, like they want to reach people for Jesus. And so I feel like that's what resonated with the New Day vision. It's like, that's what we're about too. That's what Jesus was about. That's what Paul's about. And that's what we're about as a church. So that's really exciting. So let's talk about the team that's going down there. I feel like if someone's not familiar with the family of church model and they hear about this, they might think that one of us are being sent out there. We're going to lose one of them. It's like, no, it's not the way it works. And so talk about our team and just kind of how we build our model in such a way that maximizes our effectiveness.
Yeah. So, when you get to different churches, it's funny, everybody grows up in one church or one model if you have any experience with church, and you assume that like that's how everybody does it. But what I've been amazed at is I love the church. I'm a student of the church. I love pastors and studying everything. And one of the things that I feel like grown into my understanding personally is that a lot of different churches structure things a lot of different ways. And even when you look at scripture, one of the things that people often note is like, it's very clear, like the qualifications for a pastor or for a leader in the church, but the church is actually pretty open and not super specific as exactly how it's structured. And yet what people will say is that's on purpose, because the church is the people of God on the mission of God. And that's going to be different in its time and place. And the church is actually meant to be adaptable. It's meant to be moldable. Because, I don't know what it was like in, the 1600s in France or in 1800s in China, but I know what it's like in the 2020s here in America. Mm-hmm. And there are certain things that, hey, if we could kind of structure this way, while assuming we have qualified leadership biblically in terms of character, hey, this would be helpful. And so what we have found is kind of the model we've kind of come to is, so we have a family of churches that are centrally united. And so my title is senior pastor. I'm the senior pastor over our family of churches. And I also serve as the lead pastor of New Day Houston here in the greater Oak Forest area. And so I kind of provide leadership senior wise. You're our executive pastor, once again, over our three churches. And so once again, the benefit of our model is, churches that are either struggling or declining or just small, maybe their giving isn't a ton. They can't afford an executive pastor, but they need one. They need someone to oversee the finances, organization, administration, leadership, development, all that kind of stuff. They need that, but there's just not the resources to make that happen, right? Churches bring on executive pastors and different kinds of pastors because they're very beneficial and they're very helpful to the ministry. And so I serve as a senior pastor and also the lead pastor of New Day Houston. You serve as the executive pastor over all of our churches. You're also one of our teaching pastors, and so you're regularly preaching. You preach specifically here at New Day Houston. And then our vision is for every one of our churches to have their own lead pastor and maybe some other staff as well, depending on how the church grows and matures. And so at New Day Magnolia, Pastor Randy is the lead pastor there. And so he's leading out in terms of leading like the members. And one day, maybe there's some deacons in that church, or different team members or whatever. And so for us, for Pasadena, one of the reasons that we really felt excited about it and felt called to it was because we had Colby Johnson, who came into our church right when we replanted here at New Day Houston. And he came in specifically for the purpose to get trained up in ministry. And from the beginning, we're like, man, we're going to send you out someday in some form. You're going to be an associate pastor or a lead pastor. That was the intention. And he served in our kids ministry for a while and did various different things there. But the whole time was really training to be a pastor. And so we had actually sensed God stirring in us and in him about a year prior, before any of this was a thing. Hey, we're going to move you from this next gen role into just a general pastoral resident, because we're not playing around here. We're going to send you out. Like, you're going to go do something, we got to move in faith in that. And true story, moved him into that role. And a few months later, this opportunity pops up, and so, obviously, because our offering to these churches is, hey, listen, we're going to give you qualified, good, godly leaders, who are effective in what they're called to do. And so, we can't say come into the family, but we don't have a leader for you, and so the fact that we already had that person in place made us feel like we could actually help them pretty quickly. We could really get this thing off the ground pretty quick. And so, we were looking for a church. We had a pastor already in place. And so we're excited to announce that Pastor Colby is going to go and be their lead pastor, which means he's going to lead on the ground there. He's going to teach. He's going to lead. But he's also going to be part of our central team, where we're kind of working together to really build a centralized ministry that blesses everybody. We're also excited that we also have an associate pastor there, John Kalunga, who's going to help on a lot of different roles. He was the guy that was serving there as the associate pastor at Golden Acres Baptist. And, a lot of times they'll tell you, maybe if you kind of are starting something new, start with a fresh team, but we just like this guy, and we love him, love his heart for the Lord. Watching him kind of lead alongside of us in this process, we're like, man, like we just want this guy on the team. And so, we asked him to be on the team. He gladly accepted. So he's going to be helping out there as well as on our central team as well. Also leading the way in Pasadena, it's just the faithful members that are there. They've got probably 40 committed, I would imagine, members. I mean, maybe a few more on a Sunday, but so it's a really good size. It's small enough to, I think, to be personal in these early stages. It's small enough to where, we're going to really be able to kind of help people get in the place that they're going to best be able to serve on a personal basis, but also big enough to where, you've got some people that can help out. So we're going to do that. And then lastly, just in our model, the central team. And so myself and you, obviously Pastor Colby, Pastor John on the ground there, our next gen team, Britton, who oversees our creative stuff and our worship. And we just got a central team that's gonna bless them a lot. And I think it's going to be something we're excited about. And our hope is January 8th is the date we're looking at to officially reopen it and replant it, assuming everything goes as planned.
Yeah, I love, man, I personally, just as a follower of Jesus, disciple, I love that Colby is someone who came into kind of New Day ministry and was like kind of raised up and sent out as, I just love that. Like disciple making, and now he's going to go and lead and make disciples. And it's just a beautiful model, or just a beautiful picture, I think, at a time where churches are struggling. So I feel really blessed in that regard, blessed to have Colby and John on the team. So a lot of good stuff happening, but this wouldn't be like a podcast with real talk. We're going to talk about the challenges, because it all sounds good. To me, the real question is like, okay, well, it sounds great, family at church. Why don't more people do it? Like, what's the challenge that you face when you try to enter into like a model like this?
Replanting's hard, it's worth it. But it is definitely hard. And when I think of this specific situation, I think most of the challenges are honestly just general. I don't think there's anything, I'm sure some things might, come up or whatever, but, as we're looking at Pasadena, because here's the thing, like, yeah, it's exciting. We're ready to do it. We got a team, but like, sometimes with church, it can be too fake. It's like, this is really hard work. And there's a reason why churches are struggling. There's a reason why they're dying. There's a reason why it's a hard culture in a lot of ways. And so, we want to tamper expectations so that we get a real sense of what this is going to be like. And so also that, like, when it does get difficult, it's like in the scriptures where it says, don't be surprised when you face suffering or trials, because those things are going to happen. Like, that's a guarantee. And then we're like, why are hard things happening? And so with this, yeah, I think it's hard because these are crazy times in our culture. I think we have sensed this both here in Houston and in Magnolia, where as we try to like really kind of like ramp things up again or get things going for the first time, like there's just a malaise in the culture. The idea that people are just kind of all over the place, don't know what to do, kind of still working jobs and doing their stuff, but it's like, there's like a deer in the headlights feeling, and so calling people to come all in with the church and help build something, it's not the easiest time to do that. But we need to do that because the church is called to be faithful in the mission and faithful to calling people to faith, even when it's difficult, and so it's hard just because, it's trying to get something going in these crazy distracted times with social media is difficult. So we've got to be prayerful about that, and we've got to be ready for that. I think also the financial aspect is hard for a lot of these churches. That's a big reason why churches are struggling, is because it does take money and resources to do the ministry and things that we want to do, have people there on staff to organize things, to lead things, to teach, for music, for ministry. There's just so many things going on. You got to meet somewhere, you got to rent a facility or have a facility and keep it fixed up and, all that kind of stuff. And so I think heading into an uncertain economy right now with trying to do this is a challenge, but one that we're ready to make. And we've also got to make sure that we don't just say, well, these are weird financial times, or maybe this building needs a lot of work, therefore we shouldn't do that. Because if we are only making decisions based upon the financial reality, then it really is just like a business, and that's okay for a business to operate like that, but as a church, we're a little bit different. And so we've got to be led by the mission and led by the Spirit. And the last thing I would say, probably in Pasadena, which is probably true anywhere, it needs unity. And, I know at Wide Oak we experienced that, where before we could even really feel like we had any kind of traction or building it, there was, I mean, a few years early on when the church honestly didn't grow very much, because it was just about getting unity, just about getting a spirit of unity in the church, and making sure that was happening. And so, we're going to need to really help kind of unify the church in this season. We've got to help the church reach its community. I mean, most of the members are older. And so you can tell that probably there have not been a lot of kind of new people coming into the church. And so that's been a big thing we've been able to transition here in Houston, is like, I would say probably now the majority of our church now are people that were not there when it started, which means that people have come in, got connected, got plugged in, either got baptized or got into community, and so we've got to make that transition in Pasadena, and then fix up just different building stuff, which is normal. So yeah, man, that's it, man. Like crazy culture, got to kind of make it healthy financially in different ways, and then just begin reaching people and unifying the church. I'm not sure if you have anything to add as you're kind of looking in there. You're actually there right now. Like, aren't you? Like, where you're at, like you're actually there on site, which I love. So I'm here actually at my house. I'm working from home today, but you're out in Pasadena at what is going to become either New Day Pasadena or whatever we end up naming it. What's your perspective in terms of like the challenges, maybe either in general or Pasadena?
Yeah, I mean, I think the two things are just, coming up against a culture that is increasingly, not just apathetic toward Jesus or the gospel, but in some ways, becoming a little bit more critical or antagonistic. And so it's like, I think any church right now is probably having to really go forward in faith, trusting in like God's goodness and sovereignty over the world, that like people are going to enter the kingdom, as we get the word out. And so, that's definitely a challenge. And then also, I think just the financial realities, that every church faces. And so just continuing to encourage the people here and at New Day just to be generous and to be, to invest in this work, and we're going to talk about in a moment kind of how people can be a part of it. But I do believe that's always one way that we come together and that we're better together, is when we invest in things together, invest in the kingdom together. And so I think that will be a challenge, but I think, we have, there are very faithful people here and faithful people at New Day. And so excited on that front. But it's really cool to sit here and like, just be in Pasadena while you're in Oak Forest. And it's just, if you were to ask me, back in 2017, when I came on staff, or was it like 2016 when I came on staff, that we'd be here in this position, I never would imagine. And so it's just a reminder of God's faithfulness. So really excited about it. But I know you personally are someone who has a lot of passion, a lot of drive, and just love for the church. And you have a way of like seeing unique opportunities to grow the kingdom and to build the church up. And so, man, as you think about your own maybe personal calling and calling as a pastor of New Day, like what excites you about kind of this opportunity? What excites you about Pasadena?
Man, what I love about this, and I know you can probably relate, is every opportunity we get feels very similar and also uniquely different in a fresh and exciting way, And so the way it feels similar to me when I think about it is it legitimately reminds me of White Oak. It reminds me of White Oak more so than maybe Magnolia did or does, because this one is, there's a faithful group of people there, and the membership in general might be a little bit older, but they're just like faithful, godly people that want to see something happen. I think when you think of a church that's like declining or struggling or something, or just kind of stagnant, like maybe what you think it might be like this place isn't like that. I mean, the people are kind and they're generous and they're, quickly excited about what's happening. Yeah. You feel like you get a bunch of grandmas and grandpas, which is, what, here at White Oak felt like back in the day. And so I just think it's a group of people that actually has a lot of potential for the kingdom. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the people that we get to work with, the Hanson family, Ben, like all these different people, Miss Brenda, a lot of different people there. So it has probably a faithful group of about 40 people there, so we're excited to work with them. It also had a 91% affirmation vote that just shows like support and unity. That's big, and so that's always a thing we're excited about. Like you said earlier, I'm excited because we know that to do this, we have to have people that can lead alongside of us. It can't just be me and you, and so to have Colby being sent out to bring it, I feel like it gives like some, some credibility to kind of what we're talking about, because it's like, it's easy to say, yeah, we're going to start a residency, or yeah, we're going to bring people in and send them out, and the dirty little secret of church is a lot of times like that stuff just never happens. And we never announce, hey, by the way, this didn't work out. We just act like it never happened. And so, and there are moments, man, for us, like where seriously, all glory to God, because when we brought in Colby, I mean, me and him have joked about this so often that like it went so different than we thought. Like, I mean, it like what I thought this whole thing was going to be like in his path and our working with him. I mean, I mean, I can give you details. It's nothing like we thought. It was chaotic, but somehow the end result is the same. And so to me, it just shows kind of God's faithfulness to us in that. And also just reminds us, hey, yeah, we need to step forward even when it's crazy, and continue to be faithful in that regard. And then lastly, I think, man, for me, I'm excited because I think for me and you, man, we're both like team builders. That's what we are. We want to be a part of a great team. This is not about just you or just me or whatever. Like, this isn't just about New Day, in Oak Forest. Like, we want to be a part of a great work of God in our city. I mean, we want to be a part of that. We want to see people come to know Jesus all across the city. We want to see disciples made. We have a passion for raising up leaders. Specifically like lay leaders. Like we want to see that happen. And I think what the family model does is we bring in a church like Golden Acres. It just enables us to see our team grow to where we can do more ministry, help more people, reach more people, have a bigger impact in the city. And so I'm excited about that. I mean, we've actually got our first like new iteration of our staff team with all the 3 churches starting here in a couple of weeks. And I'm just fired up to lead that. It's like a lot of people in the room, a lot of people using their gifts, a lot of people representing a lot of other people. And so it really feels like really the fruition of a lot of what we've been working on in just this crazy moment we're in American history. And so I'm just excited for that, and I guess the last thing I'll say, and I want to hear from you as well, kind of why you're uniquely excited about it. But like you said, it's like, going back to what we said about Colby, like for our journey, like what we thought we were doing and what it is now is incredible. I was thinking about this the other day. Like when I first got out of college, I thought the call of my life was just to be a flat out church planter, start something from scratch, and in some ways as a replanter, that is really what you do, but I thought that was my call, but then I ended up becoming the associate pastor at White Oak, which was a faithful but kind of struggling, kind of uncertain where it was going kind of church. I became the associate pastor at White Oak Baptist Church, and now I'm the senior pastor of the New Day family of churches. And it wasn't like this big vision we had in the beginning of this is what it's going to look like. It's literally just been honestly a lot more of like, God, what are you doing? What doors are you opening? And kind of forsaking what you thought it was going to be like to find God's plan. And I honestly feel like it's even better. Like, I think I love what we're doing more than I think I would have loved what I wanted to do. And if you had told me that back in the day, I wouldn't have probably believed you, but to stand on this side of it is just incredible that, I'm zooming you in Pasadena, and we're at 2 different parts of the community that we're trying to plant the Jesus flag. And so just incredible. And what it does for me is like, it's like, man, what's going to happen in the next 5 years? Like, what does the next 5 years hold? Like, it's, man, if God can do this in 5 years or so, like, what does the next 5 years hold? And moving into the future, I'm a lot more like just wanting to see what he wants to do versus like, this is my perfect plan. I do have a plan. I have thoughts, but I think more easily I will forsake my plans now, having seen his faithfulness. And so once again, I think Pasadena is just like the next reminder of just God's faithfulness to really just his church at large in the city, that he's going to do his work. And if we're faithful to let him use us, he will. But what about you, man? What are some reasons why you're excited about the new family member in Pasadena?
Man, well, I'll give you 3 real quick, just bullets. I mean, one is like, just personally, like you said, I feel like you start your journey in ministry and kind of expecting or hoping for something. And maybe a dirty little secret of most pastors is that, in our flesh, we do we think we want a bigger church and it's numbers and it's high production, all this kind of stuff, and so I'm honestly like very thankful in some ways that you and I entered into a time to where like that's just the cultural moment, and everything that happened with pandemic just did not make that possible. And so instead it's like the Lord purified us as leaders and as a church, and now it's like I'd take what we have any day over that original kind of ambition, because we are truly making sure that there's like a gospel outpost planted flag in Magnolia and Pasadena. And so, when I just think about Larry and Legine up in Pasadena and how they were a part of faithfully replanting that church, and they're a part of that, it's like, man, there's a church in that community. And so the same thing with Pasadena, it's like in our model, what one benefit is that these neighborhoods get to keep a gospel presence that hopefully becomes increasingly effective. And so I just think that's really cool, and just really humbling for me as a leader to be a part of that. And I would take that any day. I love the path that the Lord has put us on as a church, not just you and I, but us as a whole.
And one thing I'd add in that too, with just off what you said, is like, I love, we're not a perfect church, but like New Day Houston here in Great Oak Forest, like, dude, like I love this church. I love it. I love the people. It feels like a healthy church, and the idea that we can maybe help form that in other places. Like, I mean, I wish this was in Pasadena. I wish this was in Magnolia, and that's what we're working towards every day we wake up, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about people who are watching. If you are watching, you're hearing this, you're saying this is cool. Maybe you're a part of New Day, in the New Day family, or maybe you're just kind of outside watching, like looking in, rooting for us. John, share a little bit about how some very practical ways people can be a part of kind of what's happening in Pasadena or with the family of churches.
Yeah, this is crucial because, as you said, obviously we're at a place now where, a family of 3 churches and 3 communities across the greater Houston area. Like, this is not just like a few staff members can do this. I mean, we can't even be at all the places at once. I mean, it's pretty incredible. And so what we've said often is, I feel like our membership and our team just in general become more vital as our family grows. I mean, you and I being at the same location every Sunday together, we can kind of lead some stuff, but the importance of our team and our members really kind of giving their life to this work, really kind of leaning in with us and sacrificially giving and making a difference. It's the only way this is going to work. God empowers his church at large to make a difference. And so I truly mean it when I say the most important thing is to pray for this. I think prayer is like this. I think prayer coalesces everything. Everything I'm going to mention here in a minute, all these things that we need to quote unquote do. I think prayer has a way of like motivating us to actually do these things. Like, prayer is where like we get the heart to be generous or to serve or to help out or anything like that. And so I think praying just that God would be with us, that we would be sensitive to his leading in his spirit, that God would provide. I mean, the Bible says the gold and silver is his. And so, you can do a campaign, but I literally cannot control if somebody ever gives any money to anything. I can't make them do that, but God is over everything and he's sovereign, so I think just like having that posture of prayer that he would bless this work in the way that he wants to, and that he would also be with us as we lead through very difficult times. I mean, in my life personally, and all of our lives, and just the church, I mean, we need a lot of prayer. These are, as we were saying, it feels more biblical now. Like it feels like what was happening before in the world was like, what is that? Yeah. When I read the scriptures a lot more, the scriptures seem more relevant to me these days. So definitely praying. One is kind of serving, if you're a part of one of our New Day churches, like serving at your church. One of the things that we have found in this season is like, I think the future of the church, probably in terms of serving, is really going to be built on, there always is, but I think it's going to be more pronounced. There's going to be just a true inner core of people that are all in. Like, this is not like what was like Amazon or some crowdfunding type thing where, okay, we're going to get a bunch of people to give just a little bit, and that's how we're going to stack it up. That does not translate to the church. It's the opposite. Like, you're going to have a few people that are all in. And so I think of like at our church here at New Day Houston, like, we're thankful for everybody that serves. And I know some people maybe have like a lot of kids, you're kind of limited in what you can do. But like, I think of like Kennedy and Jody here in New Day Houston, who lead and serve almost every Sunday in our production team in various different forms. Jody often does our closing announcements. They serve more weeks than not. And you just need people like that to really step up, because, we don't have a bunch of mega churches. This is a hard time for it to have a mega church in these days, right? And so you need people that are serving. I think of Evan, who works with our music team and kind of organizes a lot of that. It's on bass or some instrument every Sunday. Like we almost don't even have to book him, because he will be there. And so I think if you want to help, I think whatever church you're at, whether it's Magnolia, Pasadena, or Houston, serving as much as you can is such a blessing to us, because not only are you helping a lot, but you create a consistency that we can build on. A rotating team of 6 people, doing something every 6 weeks we're thankful for it, but it's hard to kind of get into a rhythm. And so, really serving at your church as much as possible to build it up helps the whole thing as a whole. You want to get radical and make a huge difference, like literally move to Pasadena or Magnolia to help us start these churches. Move there. Like, if you're like, oh, the city's too expensive, or oh, of course it's too expensive, don't move to Cypress, move to Magnolia. Because we're trying to start a church there, and because you are a part of what we do, make what we call a missional move. And I know it sounds radical, but I'm telling you, you won't regret it. Move to help Pastor Randy in Magnolia, or Pastor Colby in Pasadena. We're okay with that. Like, we don't feel like we're losing you, because you're still part of the family. Because we are going to really need people in those 2 places to kind of help us really establish and begin to build those works. And houses are affordable there, just FYI. I will say Pasadena is, that's an affordable place comparatively, and right off the Beltway. There's a lot of benefits to it, right? Another one is just giving financially. That's a big one too. What we do is we help churches that are struggling. And so we're not making really, oh, this is a great financial profitable move, or anything like that, which, wow, it's a storm coming in. And so, like, just giving financially now. And the cool thing now is when you give financially to any one of our churches, you're helping the whole thing as a whole. And so you are making a difference across the greater Houston area. Specifically, if you give a New Day Houston here in Oak Forest, because we give above and beyond to these other works that we do. So we are going to need people to be very generous. We need everyone to give, but also everyone to be very generous to really build something incredible in our day. And the last thing is, and maybe the biggest, most immediate thing is, we're having a vision night on August 3rd. It's a Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. We're going to have childcare and all that available. But we're going to have it at Golden Acres, which will become maybe New Day Pasadena. We're still thinking about the name, but it's going to be a vision night there. And we're excited because we do this in Magnolia. We're like, before we do the work on the buildings, before we officially transition it, this is like a spiritual moment. Like, there's a lot of practical stuff to it, but it's almost like gathering together as the people before God in the presence of God. We're going to be, affirming Pastor Colby and Pastor John as they lead out there. I'm sure we'll be speaking in a part of it. We're going to worship together. Britton's going to be out there with our team leading. And so it's just going to be a really awesome moment. And so if you're a part of New Day, or you just like what we're doing, or you just want to worship with us, or you just want to see what's happening, or you just want to get with believers and have your faith encouraged, August 3rd, at the new location, New Day in Pasadena. You can Google it. It's Golden Acres Baptist Church, and you can join us there. And I know it's a lot of work to get there. I've got 3 kids. I know to drive 30 minutes on a work night or a school night with kids. I know it's a lot. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm going to say just do it if you're able to be there. And I think it's going to really be a really powerful moment. And just your presence there will encourage us that you're with us, that you believe in what we're doing, that you're going to help us do this. And that you want to be a part of this movement with us. And so if you can make it, that's a big thing. August 3rd, 6:30 p.m., Wednesday night, childcare is provided, New Day Pasadena Vision Night. And, that'll really kind of kick off this new season in the life of our church down there. So any final thoughts, man, as you close us out?
Nah, I'm excited, and especially for August 3rd. And I really do want to encourage you, even if you're not a part of New Day, maybe you're a faithful member of another church. Just come like that night. I feel like the prayer that's going to happen that night is really going to set the seed and the foundation of kind of what happens in the months in years to come. And so I just see it as a moment where like it's not even about like New Day, it's about the church being replanted and growing and flourishing in this community. So I'm just excited about that, and it's gonna be a powerful moment. So please do come and be a part of that. But really excited about Pasadena, excited about Golden Acres joining the family. Appreciate you guys watching this, and like I said, just pop in the hood and want you guys to know and be excited about what's going on. And please do come on August 3rd. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys.